I paid for everyone's $17,500 Austria lodge, 10 people, 1 chalet. At check-in, my name was missing. Staff room's fine. You're too young for luxury, my father smirked. I replied, of course, canceled the chalet, froze all group cards, and left. They were evicted in robes at 1 a.m. One text said, please fix this. I sent a screenshot, balance 1 cent. When I stepped out of the car and looked up at the glass and timber facade of the luxury Alpine Lodge, I actually smiled. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe this trip would be different. Maybe this would finally be the one time we all acted like a real family. My name is Jasper. I'm 30 years old. I live in Seattle, and I'm an architect. I'd spent the past year juggling deadlines and site visits just to carve out the time and cash for this 10-day family getaway in the Austrian mountains. I'd booked it myself. I'd chosen the lodge, paid the deposit, even covered travel insurance for relatives who couldn't quite afford it right now. So when I walked into the lodge lobby and gave my name at the front desk, I wasn't expecting confusion. I'm sorry, sir, the concierge said, glancing at her screen. I don't see a Jasper Reynolds on the guest list. My smile froze. That can't be right. I'm the one who booked the entire stay. She tilted the monitor slightly and turned it toward me. She wasn't lying. Room after room was listed under other names. My parents, both of my cousins, even my uncle and his girlfriend. But not me. I felt the heat crawl up my neck as I asked, can you double-check? Before she could answer, I heard the sound of my mother's voice behind me. Oh, there you are. We were wondering when you'd get in. I turned. My parents stood there in their matching ski jackets, grinning like nothing was wrong. They don't have me listed, I said. My dad chuckled and waved it off. Don't worry about that. We figured you wouldn't mind bunking with the ground staff. They've got extra space in one of the storage units. My jaw tightened. You figured. Well, the main rooms were all full, my mom said lightly. The couples needed privacy, and you know your cousin Serena gets night terrors. She needs a whole bed to herself. I stood there stunned. My family had come to this luxury lodge, a trip I organized and funded, and assigned me to a closet. Like it was no big deal. I thought I was in the terrace suite, I said, trying to keep my voice even. My dad waved his hand again. Oh, we gave that to Rachel and Connor. It's their anniversary month or something. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, smiled faintly, and stepped back toward the front desk. Is there a business center here? I asked the concierge quietly. Yes, sir. Just down that hallway. Perfect. While the rest of them hauled their Louis Vuitton luggage upstairs, I walked to the business center, opened my laptop, and connected to the lodge Wi-Fi. I had access to the shared accounts. I had the reservation login. And under the counter, with my screen angled away from the security camera, I began quietly editing the guest roster and checking refund eligibility policies. Let them enjoy their view. They wouldn't have it for long. By the time the champagne corks popped, I had already laid the groundwork. It was late afternoon, and the whole family had gathered in the glass-walled lounge, toasting to togetherness, while the snow fell softly outside. My dad raised a flute, grinning. To family, he said. Even the ones who show up late and still expect the royal treatment. Laughter all around. I was standing near the back of the room, sipping soda water, nodding along like nothing was wrong. Inside, I was already miles ahead. From my phone, I quietly logged into the financial dashboard for the shared family fund, the one they had all gotten used to accessing for convenience. Gas, groceries, ski rentals, spa packages. All of it went through cards I had created, cards tied to my accounts. With a few swipes, I froze every single one. There were 7 in circulation. I deactivated all 7. Next, I opened the shared itinerary app. I had built it to keep things organized, but it also let me manage reservations in real time. I exited the group. Then I removed every reservation tag that didn't have my name on it. I bookmarked one item for later. Then I walked over to the concierge. Excuse me, I said. I'd like to make a slight change to the reservation. She smiled. Of course. Would you like to upgrade your stay? Actually, I said, tapping my phone, I'd like to cancel the full booking. All 10 rooms. Immediate effect. Her eyes widened. Sir, the entire reservation? I nodded. Yes. Use the corporate code on file. Full cancellation, no delays. She hesitated, clearly unsure what to do. But, your family. I paid for the entire reservation. It's my account. Is there a problem? She glanced nervously at her computer. No, sir. I just need to inform management. Please do. A few moments later, a man in a dark blazer approached me. Mr. Reynolds, he said. May I speak with you privately? I nodded. We stepped a few feet away as the room buzzed behind us. I understand you wish to cancel your party's stay? Yes. He gave a careful look toward the lounge. There. Currently enjoying the welcome reception. I kept my voice level. Yes. Which will be the last thing they enjoy here. He blinked. Very well, sir. I signed the cancellation paperwork. Then I handed him a card. I'll be relocating to the Parkstrasse Hotel across the road. They've confirmed my suite. Understood. I turned to go, then paused. Do let them finish their champagne. But after that, kindly begin checkout. He gave a slight bow. Discreetly. Not necessary. By the time I walked out of the lodge, the snow was falling heavier. I could still hear them laughing behind the windows. My mom was throwing her head back in that dramatic way she always did when she wanted people to think everything was fine. She had no idea. At the Parkstrasse front desk, I handed over my ID. The clerk greeted me warmly and offered a private corner suite. Back at the lodge, a murmur had started to spread. I watched from across the street as a staff member whispered to my cousin Rachel. She looked confused, then irritated. My uncle stepped forward, gesturing wildly. Moments later, my dad came storming out the front door in his socks, holding a room key that no longer worked. And just like that, the luxury vacation was over. Their bags were brought out under soft snowfall. My mom looked around in disbelief as the concierge offered her a printed copy of the final invoice. My dad caught sight of me across the road. I lifted my glass, and I smiled. That night, in the quiet of my new hotel suite, I lay on top of the covers fully dressed, staring at the ceiling while the sound of sleet tapped against the windows. I wasn't angry anymore. That part had passed. What I felt now was something different. Heavier. Older. It was the weight of years I couldn't get back. This trip had been the last straw, but it wasn't the first cut. Not even close. The truth is, I'd been bleeding slowly for a long time. It started small. A group dinner where I picked up the tab because my dad forgot his wallet. A niece's school trip I quietly paid for when my sister's check got held up. Subscription services that somehow ended up under my name. Family streaming accounts, Amazon Prime, even my uncle's fancy language app, all linked to my credit card. I never said no. I just kept paying. And when I tried to raise it, it was always a joke. Oh, here comes the accountant. Don't be such a tightwad, Jasper. You don't mind. You're the one with the good job. What they really meant was, you're useful. And you'll stay quiet. Because you always do. They didn't ask how I was doing. No one ever wondered if I was tired, or burned out, or drowning in backlog projects. It didn't matter. I was the responsible one. The bank. The fix-it man. I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat. Hundreds of messages stretching back months, all filled with requests. Airport pickups. Emergency fund transfers. Last-minute hotel upgrades. The tone was always the same. Warm, casual, assuming. The only time my name ever showed up with gratitude was when I was footing the bill. I scrolled to the message where I had first suggested this trip. Let's all go somewhere together, I'd written, trying to keep it light. My treat. Just bring yourselves. Back then, I'd meant it. I really had. I was stupid enough to think it might bring us closer. That maybe, if I gave them something beautiful, time, comfort, shared luxury, they'd see me. But they didn't. They saw a booking ID. That lodge wasn't just a vacation. It was the sum total of all the little humiliations I had swallowed. Every time they left me out of the conversation, every time they rolled their eyes when I talked about work, every time they treated me like a guy filling a role instead of a person with limits. I booked that lodge thinking it would make them happy. But the truth was, I was hoping it would make them grateful. That maybe I'd finally be part of the family in a way that didn't revolve around my wallet. And tonight, I slept in a proper bed. In my own room. Paid for with my own card. While they shivered under sleet, their coats zipped up tight, wondering how the hell this happened. I closed my eyes. I wasn't the bank anymore. And they weren't my burden. The next morning, I woke up to sunshine. Bright, blinding light spilling across the hardwood floors of my boutique suite. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I saw my jacket draped over the velvet chair, still damp from last night's snow, and I remembered. They were across the road. Or maybe not. Maybe they'd found a motel off the highway or piled into some last-minute bed and breakfast like a touring rock band with bad credit. I didn't know. I didn't care. I stretched, made an espresso from the machine in the corner, and opened my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Just one push notification, a shared album update from the trip photo drive I had created for the group weeks ago. I opened it automatically. The first picture hit me like a slap. There they were, all of them. In a private cable car, glass walls fogged slightly from the cold, huddled around a pot of fondue. My mom was laughing. My cousin Rachel was holding a champagne flute. My uncle, in ski goggles he hadn't paid for, was giving a thumbs up to the camera. They looked cozy. Happy. Together. The caption? We thought you needed the rest. I blinked. I checked the timestamp. The photo was taken at 9:14 a.m. I had been awake. I had been sipping espresso across the street. I hadn't been invited. I checked the trip itinerary, a private snow trek, and alpine lunch. I remembered planning it, down to the cheese selection. I remembered choosing that exact cable car for its panoramic view. It had been meant for all of us. No one had said a word. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the street below. Snow was melting in patches now. A few families strolled by in puffer jackets, snapping selfies against the mountains. I sat back down and opened the financial app again. The group card history was still visible. A charge for €490 at a high-end boutique, women's scarves, and a faux fur stole. €312 at a spa 2 towns over. €80 for a bottle of champagne. €64 at a ski rental, even though I knew Serena brought her own gear. I stared at the screen. They were still using the cards. Somehow. Probably hadn't noticed they were frozen. Maybe they had backup authorizations stored in Apple Pay. I closed the app, stood up, got dressed. That night, I showed up at dinner. They were seated at a rustic wood table in the lodge's public restaurant, acting like they hadn't been evicted 48 hours earlier. My mom gave a forced smile as I pulled out a chair. Well, I said lightly, the photos looked nice. They all froze. Oh, you saw those? Rachel said, clearly trying to recover. We weren't sure if you were feeling up for it. I planned that lunch, I said quietly. I booked that cable car. It was meant to be shared. Silence. Connor coughed. We just figured you'd be tired. My eyes scanned the table. Everyone was avoiding me. My cousin's boyfriend kept sipping his wine like it might drown him. I leaned back. Well, I said, you all seemed to manage just fine. No one responded. But the fracture was there now. And it was spreading. That night, after the quietest dinner I'd ever sat through, I went back to my suite, kicked off my boots, and opened my laptop. I wasn't looking for trouble. I just wanted confirmation. I started with the lodge's guest services portal. I still had admin access from when I managed the reservation. I clicked through to the security tab, half expecting access to be revoked. It wasn't. Each hallway, each public space, every amenity area, all had camera feeds archived and timestamped. I opened the footage from that morning, the day of the cable car trip. There it was. 7:30 a.m. The lobby. My family gathered near the fireplace, bundled in matching winter jackets I hadn't seen before. They were passing around hot chocolate and laughing. Laughing. My mom had her arm around Serena. My uncle adjusted the zipper on Leah's coat. Rachel was trying to herd everyone for a group photo. And I wasn't even mentioned. Not a "where's Jasper?" Not a "should we wait?" Not even a glance in my direction. I scrolled through to 8:10. They walked out to the lodge shuttle, another thing I had arranged, without so much as a knock on my door. Like I didn't exist. I watched as they boarded the van, waving to the driver. I knew that driver. I'd called him myself last month to confirm pickup times. And they left me behind. I sat there, staring at the screen, heart pounding but hands weirdly steady. Then I remembered the shared photo drive. I opened it again, this time more carefully. Hundreds of images had been uploaded. Spa shots, mountain selfies, group candids in the sauna. I hadn't seen any of it until now. No one had tagged me. No one had sent a single link. I clicked through one by one. My cousin Serena posing in a silk robe. A glass of Prosecco in one hand. My initials on the receipt in the corner of the frame. My card. A screenshot of a mobile booking confirmation for a premium massage. Charged to the group fund. Timestamped during the dinner I wasn't invited to. And the kicker, a photo of my cousin's boyfriend, Connor, wearing my ski goggles. The ones I'd bought for myself. The ones that were still missing from the luggage I'd left in the staff room. It was all there. Not just laziness. Not just forgetfulness. Intentional exclusion. Quiet theft. Willful erasure. I sat back in my chair, breathing slow. This wasn't a mistake. They had planned this. They had cut me out from the start. And suddenly, it all made sense. The missing name on the guest list, the broom closet assignment, the forgotten lunch invitation. They hadn't overlooked me. They had removed me. Carefully. Quietly. Like I was the smudge they couldn't Photoshop out. I stared at the screen. Fine. Let them treat me like a ghost. I'd give them a haunting. 2 nights later, they threw a surprise birthday bash for my sister Leah. It was all glitter and Instagram poses. Gold balloons. Designer cake. Faux candid photos with hashtags already prepared. The party wasn't on the original itinerary. I knew that because I had built the itinerary. But someone, probably Rachel, had rerouted funds and arranged the whole thing behind my back. I watched from the bar for the first half hour. No one noticed. They were too busy taking selfies with the mountain view, admiring the cake with Leah's name scripted in fondant. I recognized the bakery. It was imported from Vienna. Easily $600. Paid for by the trip account. Paid for by me. They were all there. My dad was spinning some half-hearted joke into a full-blown monologue while my uncle fake laughed like he always did when the booze kicked in. Leah was glowing, of course, hair curled, dress sparkly, her boyfriend's arm glued around her waist like a designer bag. No one asked where I was. No one even looked for me. That is, until the slideshow started. It was my voice they heard first, calm and flat. Since we're all here, I said, I thought I'd share a few highlights. The screen on the far wall, the one previously displaying photos of Leah as a baby and a tween and a college sophomore, flickered, and then changed. The first slide, a screenshot of the guest roster. My name missing. Second, a receipt from the luxury spa, timestamped, signed, charged to my card. Third, a selfie of Rachel and Serena drinking champagne in the cable car, the excursion I was excluded from, with my booking ID visible in the corner. By the fourth slide, the room had fallen silent. I kept my tone neutral. You'll notice the date on that receipt overlaps with the snow trek. That's the one I wasn't invited to. I must have been resting, apparently. A few people laughed nervously. No one else moved. I flipped to the next slide. Here's the birthday cake. Imported. Not cheap. Purchased through the family account. Which, of course, was funded entirely by me. Leah looked like she'd been slapped. Connor, Serena's boyfriend, let out a low, shit. I wasn't finished. The next image, my ski goggles on Connor's head, tagged in his Instagram story with a caption that read, "Found treasure." The final slide? A photo of my room. The utility closet. A cot next to a stack of paper towel rolls and bleach. The image was dark and grainy. The kind of picture people took when they wanted proof. Or an alibi. I looked up at the room. No one could spin it now. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You mocked me, I said quietly. You used me. And then you tried to erase me. I scanned the faces. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear. My dad couldn't meet my eyes. Leah had frozen mid-sip, her wine glass trembling slightly. You wanted my money, I said. But not my presence. Nobody spoke. Even the music had been turned off. The Bluetooth speaker was still glowing blue, humming faintly in the corner like it had caught shame in the air. I booked this trip as a gift, I said, voice steady. Not a blank check. Not a favor. And definitely not a chance to get laughed at in a staff room. I clicked the remote one last time. The projector shut off. That ends now. I turned, walked past the rows of stunned faces, and pushed open the door. No one followed. Not this time. I didn't wait until morning. I walked straight from the party to the Parkstrasse Business Lounge, snow crunching underfoot, phone already in hand. My fingers moved on instinct, unlocking the dashboard I had quietly held admin access to since the day the reservation was made. 10 rooms. 2 suites. 8 deluxe doubles. All under my payment plan. All activated under one master code. It took less than 5 minutes to dismantle it. First, I revoked all active key cards. One by one. Every digital lock disconnected. Then I canceled all room privileges, dining charges, spa access, shuttle rides, minibar credits. Then I called the front desk of the original lodge. Hello, I said. This is Jasper Reynolds, main account holder for the Reynolds Group booking. I'd like to close the account. Effective immediately. There was a pause. Sir, the group is currently staying on the property. No, I said. They were. I'm revoking all access. The woman on the other end sounded stunned. That's quite an unusual request. It's an unusual situation. I paused, then added, you may begin informing guests at your discretion. I will cover the cancellation fees and remaining balance. But I'd like them out. Tonight. A silence. Then, understood. When I stepped outside again, the wind had picked up. Sharp sleet now cut sideways across the dark street. I zipped my coat up higher and walked slowly, deliberately, across the road to the front steps of the lodge. Inside, the staff was already moving. I watched as one manager spoke to my cousin Rachel, who immediately turned pale and grabbed her phone. Leah stormed into the lobby next, still wearing her glitter birthday sash like it might shield her. She made it halfway to the desk before a bellhop gently intercepted her. The security guard, the same one who had helped me move my luggage days ago, gave me a small nod from behind the counter. I nodded back. Then I walked in. My parents were arguing with the concierge. My mom's mascara was running. My dad's hair was sticking out in wild angles like he'd just woken up or hadn't slept. When they saw me, everything stopped. You're doing this? My dad asked, his voice hoarse. I stepped closer. I was your bank account, I said. You made me sleep next to janitor supplies. The silence that followed was crushing. You can't just kick us out, my mom said quietly, as if whispering might undo it all. I can, I said. And I did. You're overreacting, Leah tried. I looked at her. At the glittering cake crumbs still clinging to her dress. I hope it was worth it. The staff began gathering luggage. Room keys were deactivated. They were officially guests no longer. Rachel burst into tears. Connor cursed under his breath. My uncle tried to argue with one of the staff, then gave up and started shoving his clothes into a duffel bag. The storm outside was worse now. Rain turning to icy slush. Wind howling across the valley. They stood on the steps of the luxury lodge they'd been evicted from, their bags piled around them, their designer coats soaked and useless in the freezing gusts. No one said thank you. No one apologized. And for once, I didn't need them to. I turned and walked away. They could find their own shelter. Back at the Parkstrasse, I closed the door to my suite and locked it behind me, not out of fear, but finality. This was no longer a trip. It was the ending of an era. I sat at the desk, cracked my knuckles once, and opened my laptop. The screen glowed warm against the cold rage still simmering under my ribs. First, the cards. The shared family cards I had created for convenience. I didn't just freeze them this time. I deleted them, removed linked bank accounts, shut down the entire digital wallet. Then I moved on to the subscriptions. There were dozens. Family Netflix, Hulu, Audible, food delivery services with my billing info. Even a monthly wine box I didn't drink from but somehow always paid for. Gone, gone, gone. I revoked logins, changed passwords, removed emails. I flagged every device I didn't recognize and logged them out, one by one. Then the flight benefits, the group travel miles, the multi-pass accounts I'd let them use just to save money. Deauthorized. Flagged for fraud. One of them had actually upgraded to business class on my points without telling me. That one stung more than I thought it would. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. The sleet tapped like tiny fingers against the windows. My phone sat on the nightstand, buzzing quietly every few minutes. Voicemails. Texts. One after another. From Rachel, we need to talk. Please. From Leah, how could you do this on my birthday? From my mom, we didn't mean to hurt you. From my dad, nothing. Just a missed call. I didn't listen to a single one. I opened the shared drive last. Deleted everything. Every photo. Every tag. Every dumb little emoji caption someone had added to make the trip look like a Hallmark postcard. I left one file behind. Just one. A single image of the broom closet I'd been assigned to. The cot. The mop bucket. The bleach bottle. The folded towel that was more an afterthought than bedding. That was their inheritance now. No speech. No explanation. No defense. Just truth. I turned off my phone. Disconnected the charger. Tossed it face down on the desk. Then I walked into the bathroom, took the longest shower I'd had in weeks, and stood under the scalding water until my skin turned pink. When I stepped out, the mirror was fogged. I wiped a strip down the center and stared at myself. Not the version they saw, the ATM, the ride, the fixer, the sucker in a sweater vest. Just me. I wrapped the towel around my waist, walked to the window, and opened it. The air was sharp, bracing. I took a breath. They had taken a lot from me. Years, really. But now? I was taking it all back. The next morning, I moved everything. I transferred my remaining funds into a new private account under a different bank, one they didn't know about, couldn't accidentally name drop when trying to sweet talk a teller. I changed the login credentials to every financial tool I'd ever shared access to. Passwords. Two-factor authentication. Security questions. Gone. Rewritten. New phone number, too. I had already submitted the request the night before, and by noon, the switch was official. The old number, the one my family had texted, called, cried into voicemails on, was gone. Disconnected. From that moment forward, silence became my default. Not the cold kind. Not the kind that punishes or stings. It was the kind that felt earned. Like when you turn off a noisy engine and hear the wind again. Or the silence of snow falling when no one's around to ruin it. I logged into my old email for the last time to delete it. But first, I scanned the inbox. At least a dozen messages from my mom. Most with subject lines like, "We can fix this," and "You're still our son." Two from my dad, both blank except for a forwarded bank alert, a bounce charge on the luxury car rental he had apparently never returned. And then there was Leah. Just one message. The subject line read, "I didn't mean it." But the body said, "I didn't expect you to actually leave." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the photo attachment she'd sent from the birthday night. It was a group shot, glamorous, filtered, everyone mid-laugh. All smiles. Except I wasn't in it. I'd been the one behind the camera. I dragged the photo to the trash. Then I emptied the folder. Later that evening, my mom posted on Facebook. It was a photo of her holding a mug of tea by a fireplace, wrapped in a blanket. The caption said, "Sometimes family lets you down, but forgiveness is the bridge we must walk across together." The comments were full of sympathy. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years chimed in. "So sorry, Aunt Margie. Hope you're okay." One even said, "Tell Jasper to call you. Life's too short." I didn't reply. Because she wasn't talking to me. Not really. It was all performative. The vague martyrdom. The veiled guilt trip. Public sadness in place of private truth. The next message came from my dad. Not a post, not a call. Just a photo. It was of the lodge parking lot. Their bags, still wet from the sleet, dumped on the pavement. No caption. Just a photo. I knew what he wanted it to say. "Look what you did." I stared at it for a second, then tapped forward and sent it back to him, Leah, Rachel, and my mom. This time, I added something. A photo of my cot. The bleach bottle beside it. The overhead light that buzzed all night. That's what they did. I didn't know them words anymore. Only silence. and I was finally ready to keep it. The next morning was still. No buzzing phone. No calendar alerts. No vague, "Are you free to help move a couch?" text from a cousin I hadn't heard from in 8 months. Just silence. I opened the curtains and let the light flood in. The mountains were soft and white again, fresh snow smoothing over every trace of yesterday. Even the lodge across the road looked peaceful now, the drama scrubbed away by a fresh layer of quiet. I made myself an espresso, took it to the balcony, and sat down in the cold. No coat, just the hotel robe and the morning air. It bit at my skin in a way that felt honest. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was behind, or needed, or trapped. I just was. I took a sip and let the bitterness settle on my tongue. No alarms. No errands. No family crisis I had to clean up. No guilt ticking in the back of my skull like a faulty metronome. It wasn't happiness, exactly. It was relief. I thought about the person I used to be, the version of me who thought if I gave enough, worked hard enough, stayed quiet long enough, they'd finally see me. That Jasper believed in second chances and good intentions. He believed that family would come around, if you just stayed generous. That version of me? He died in a broom closet, next to a bottle of bleach. I had grieved him. Now I was letting him go. I thought I would miss them. My family. The inside jokes. The holidays. The idea that, deep down, we had something unshakable. But what I missed wasn't them. I missed the illusion. The fantasy that one day I'd walk into the room and they'd be proud to see me, not because of what I paid for or fixed, but because of who I was. I'd built that version of family in my head. Brick by careful brick. Sacrifice by silent sacrifice. They never existed. Not really. I stared out at the snow-draped peaks and thought about all the things I could do now. Weekends. Real vacations. A home where my name wasn't just on the title, but on the doorbell. A kitchen with mugs I picked out myself. Friends who knew me for more than just my bank account. Maybe even love, someday. With someone who didn't think usefulness was the same thing as love. I took one more sip of coffee, then stood up. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need closure. I didn't even need revenge. I just needed out. And I was out. I closed the balcony door behind me, sealing in the warmth. And that was it. No more debt disguised as duty. No more applause that never came. Just me. And this new morning.